In the shadows of the lush Ivory Coast, a grim reality persists, one that the gleaming aisles of supermarkets and the sweet allure of chocolate bars scarcely hint at. Here, children are ensnared in the bitter webs of forced labor, their young hands harvesting the cocoa pods that feed the insatiable global appetite for chocolate. This is not a relic of a bygone era, but a present-day scandal involving some of the most recognized names in the confectionery industry: Mars, Nestlé, and Cargill. These corporations, with revenues that rival the GDPs of small nations, stand accused of sourcing cocoa from plantations that exploit child labor. In 2021, a lawsuit brought by 6 Malian citizens who, as children, were allegedly enslaved on Ivorian cocoa farms, sought to hold these chocolate giants accountable. They recounted harrowing tales of long hours, no pay, scant food, and brutal beatings. Yet, the U.S. Supreme Court dismissed the lawsuit, signaling a harrowing precedent that such human rights abuses are secondary to corporate interests. The Harkin-Engel Protocol, a voluntary agreement signed in 2001 by the major chocolate companies, was intended to end the worst forms of child labor in the cocoa industry by 2005. However, this protocol has been criticized for its lack of enforcement and tangible results. Despite the promises, the exploitation continues, with reports indicating that over 2 million children are still working in hazardous conditions in the cocoa industries of Ghana and the Ivory Coast. The Ivory Coast's reliance on cocoa, a legacy of French colonialism, has left it vulnerable to exploitation. After gaining independence in 1960, the nation was left impoverished, with cocoa farming becoming a desperate measure for economic survival. The farmers, earning less than $1 per day, are caught in a vicious cycle of poverty, compelling them to use child labor to remain competitive. The Supreme Court's dismissal of the child slavery case has effectively condoned the exploitation, leaving the children of the Ivory Coast in a state of perpetual bondage. This decision underscores a global economic system that favors the powerful and overlooks the plight of the vulnerable. In a cynical twist, Mars attempted to divert public attention from the scandal by launching a marketing campaign focused on the redesign of their M&M's characters. This ploy, while successful in sparking a cultural debate, did little to address the underlying issue of child labor in their supply chain. The green M&M's footwear change, trivial in the grand scheme, became a topic of national conversation, overshadowing the grim realities of child slavery. This strategy of distraction is emblematic of a society more concerned with superficial changes than with addressing systemic injustices. To combat this, there is a pressing need for chocolate companies to commit to ethical sourcing and improve the welfare of their workers. It is a collective responsibility to demand transparency and hold these corporations accountable for their role in perpetuating child labor. The Harkin-Engel Protocol, while a step in the right direction, requires stringent enforcement and a commitment to ethical practices from the chocolate industry. Only through concerted efforts can we hope to dismantle the structures that allow such exploitation to thrive. The Harkin-Engel Protocol, also known as the Cocoa Protocol, is an international agreement aimed at ending the worst forms of child labor and adult forced labor in the production of cocoa, the main ingredient in chocolate. Initiated by U.S. Senator Tom Harkin and Representative Elliot Engel in response to reports of child slavery on cocoa farms in West Africa, it was signed in September 2001 by governments, chocolate companies, cocoa processors, and civil society groups. However, the protocol is voluntary with no legal binding force, and its effectiveness has been questioned. Despite some progress, reports suggest that child labor and unethical labor practices continue to be prevalent in the cocoa industry, particularly in West Africa, which produces the majority of the world's cocoa supply. Consumers, too, have a role to play. By choosing to support companies that prioritize ethical practices, they can exert pressure on the industry to change. It is through these collective actions that we can aspire to create a world where the sweetness of chocolate is not tainted by the bitterness of child labor. Wrapping up, the chocolate industry's reliance on child labor is a complex issue rooted in historical, economic, and social factors. The Harkin-Engel Protocol represents a promise yet to be fulfilled, and the recent lawsuit dismissal by the U.S. Supreme Court is a stark reminder of the long road ahead. It is imperative that we, as global citizens, remain vigilant and proactive in demanding ethical practices from the corporations that profit from the fruits of child labor. Only then then can we ensure that the rights and dignity of every child are upheld, and the chocolate we enjoy is free from the stain of exploitation.